In my blended stat of four advanced metrics, Jaden Daniels and Baker Mayfield both equal tier 2 out of 5 tiers for quarterbacks. So there is going to be no advantage at the quarterback position, at least not one that is distinguishable enough to really feel confident in. So, with that said, we're going to move to the receiving element where Terry McLaurin equals 36th in yards per route run, which is very good because that's amongst wide receivers and tight ends. And he's going against Zion McCollum, who is 34th in PFF coverage grade. So that's really tight. McCollum plays a remarkably low 16% of his snaps in man coverage. The average is about 26%, so 10 percentage points less than average for McCollum. So we'll probably see a good deal of just zone matchups and not man on man. With that said, McCollum partly plays such little man coverage because he's very poor when he does, as he's earned a 47 PFF coverage grade in his man coverage assignments. With all of that said, I consider this to be a draw as well, as McCollum is not going to fare very well in man coverage, but he'll do just fine in zone. So I think that that is a balanced enough matchup to not really sway either side. As for the ground attack for the Commanders, they are fourth in rushing expected points added, compared to Tampa, who is seventh in run defense expected points added. So you're not going to believe what I do here. I don't give a point to either team. That is a novel idea, I know, but we'll see what happens. This will eventually heat up a bit, I promise. But matchup wise, there's a lot of competitive matchups. And that's kind of funny to say. Matchup wise, there's a lot of matchups. You would never believe that. But with that said, this is a really tight game. And the edges are just razor thin, except for a couple cases where they do lean a little bit more strongly to one side. But we'll get into that later. The next area of contention is the pass rushing of the Commanders, where Dorrance Armstrong is 46th in pressures amongst front seven players versus Luke Gedicke. I don't know if it's Gedicke or Godicke. I've heard both ways quite often, but I said both, so I covered my bases. Godicke is 29th in pass blocking grade, so this could be a place where we give an edge somewhere, right? Wrong. Godicke is better than Armstrong, but I don't really like to give out points to offensive linemen because negating a point for the defense is the same as earning a point for yourself. And that's what they're doing. They're negating the point for Armstrong and the Commanders, and instead are making it a neutral game. So, with that said, this is also neutral, which is hilarious. We went through the entire Commanders offense without giving out a single point to either side. That's kind of funny. As we shift to Tampa Bay, they waste no time in getting an advantage, as Mike Evans is 8th in yards per route run versus his father, Marshawn Lattimore, who is 27th in PFF coverage grade. He has a very nice 77 grade in man coverage and a high usage of man coverage as well at 31%. Again, 26% is average. So this is going to be one of the biggest matchups of the entire game, which you could say for basically every matchup of the Commanders offense, but it is really true for Tampa here. If Evans has success, Tampa is going to roll on offense and be very difficult to stop. I'm never going to say that if, this one player plays well, they guaranteed win, but if Evans plays well, they're going to stand a much better chance because he's their basically only target that's a real threat. And Lattimore has had his number historically. I don't know how much of that is Lattimore having a good scheme in New Orleans with Dennis Allen being a great defensive mind and putting Lattimore into good positions. But either way, Evans has struggled against Lattimore, and that could persist. But I'm not going to bank on it. I'm just going to look at what the stats are for this year, and Evans has really been playing at a super high level. This has arguably been one of his best years, even though his traditional counting stats, like yards, are not as impressive as some of his other years. I know that he had a very high PFF grade. I don't pay attention super much to PFF grades, but at least for receivers, I like to look at them for cornerbacks and offensive linemen, things of that nature. But Evans, that means something to have a great PFF grade. And Lattimore, he's definitely a worthy adversary for Evans. So I think this is going to be a great matchup. The next advantage will also have a decisive victor, as the Buccaneers, surprisingly enough, have the sixth best rushing expected points added, and Washington, unsurprisingly enough, has the 27th best run defense expected points added. Tampa has really revamped their offensive line, and Bucky Irving has been a great rookie as well. Rachaad White, I think, has been pretty good, but it's mostly been Irving that has really carried the load for the offense in the rushing department. So this will be the second advantage for Tampa. They have two advantages compared to zero for Washington as it stands now. But don't get used to that because they're getting their third just now with their pressure getter Yaya Diaby, who has a fun name in case you didn't realize. I'm here to point it out. He's 11th in pressures versus Andrew Wiley, who is way worse than 11th. He is 57th in pass blocking grade for PFF for offensive tackles. So that's a rough matchup for the Commanders. Daniels is going to be in for some real pressure his way, which is not great, but I trust Daniels to elude it or avoid it, more aptly put. Um, with that said, there is another key matchup for the defensive line for the Buccaneers, with Vita Vea being 37th in pressures for defensive tackles and edge rushers versus Tyler Biadasz, who is 17th in pass blocking for centers. He's also Vea, that is. I think you could arrive to that conclusion without me telling you, but he's also going against Nick Allegretti, who is 55th in pass blocking grade from PFF for guards. So he's pretty good. He's not great, but he's all right. And that makes for a kind of even matchup, I would say. I don't think that Vea is going to really get home a whole lot because Biadasz in particular is a solid player. So I think that he's going to be able to hold up pretty nicely against Vea, but I think that they're also going to be able to double team him a good deal because beyond Diaby and Vea, there's not much of a pass rush for the Bucks. I guess there is Kalijah Cansey, who is in that maybe third tier of pass rusher for defensive tackles, but he lacks some strength, so he can be nullified at times. Cansey, though, definitely somebody to watch out for in the future. I know that's not what you clicked on this video for. You didn't click on this video for future takes, but you're getting it anyways and you're going to like it. Maybe you won't, you'll leave. That's fine. I'll cry. Anyways, the final advantage is one that doesn't relate to players, but instead is for home field advantage, where the Bucs have that, of course. They did win their division, the Commanders did not. So that takes the advantages to 4 advantages for the Bucs and 0 for the Commanders, which is quite surprising to me. I feel like I clickbaited some people because in my playoff video, I predicted, or like my playoff predictor video, I predicted that the Commanders would win. And now I'm changing my tune quite substantially to saying that the Bucs are going to win. So, yeah, I didn't mean to mislead anybody, but the more I looked into this game, the more I felt in favor of the Buccaneers. So that's where I'm going with now. Those are my thoughts on the game. Be sure to let me know what yours are in the comments section, and also be sure to like and subscribe for more football content.